Well, we are how many days away from Vesak? I think 3 days, right? This coming Sunday, the 11th of May, is very special for a couple of reasons, right? So it is, first of all, Vesak, which is the biggest celebration in the Buddhist world. Vesak marks, it was on a Vesak full moon day, a full moon day in May, that the Buddha to be, the young Prince Siddhartha, was born. He also became a fully enlightened Buddha, also on a full moon day in May. And then his final passing away also happened on a full moon day in May. So this is why this full moon day in May is very special for the Buddhists around the world. So in fact, right now, I think they had just in Vietnam, the United Nations Vesak Day. I know it because Ajahn Brahmali went and gave a speech, and also Bhikkhu Bodhi gave a keynote speech. And I was told that Bhikkhu Bodhi was very brave to speak in front of everybody, and there were lots of the very senior monks from the Theravada Buddhist countries who are not yet fully supportive of the bhikkhunis, the fully ordained nuns, but Bhikkhu Bodhi very courageously and very bravely have apparently said that it is about time that all of these countries really officially recognize the bhikkhuni ordination, which was really well done. I'm looking forward to hearing that talk if I manage to get it. And if I do, I'll share it with you all as well. Thanks for the hearts, Simran. Very nice message indeed for Vesak this year. So also, so I'm going to consider this as our Vesak Dhamma talk for the Thursday sessions. And the second important thing about this Sunday is also happens to be the Mother's Day, right? It's a more of a new thing. It's just a concept, but nevertheless, important one. Our parents are important, right? And mother, who have given birth to us, who kept us in their tummy for at least 9 months, for the very least. If they have not done anything else, at least they've done that much. But most mothers do much more than that. So my mother is right here in this room, and I actually have a lot of gratitude to her. She's now 79, going to be 79 this year, and still looking after all of us at Santi, making dana and doing all these things. So we have couple of Dhamma. So before I begin the Dhamma talk, I would like to first start with offering some gifts. So this Vesak, we have quite a number of little gifts to offer to everybody. And they are like little Dhamma jewels. And the first gift that we are going to offer is actually from my mother. It was 8 years ago on a Vesak full moon day. She was actually at Ajahn Brahm's monastery in Western Australia. And after hearing a beautiful, inspiring Vesak Dhamma talk, she made a determination. She was so inspired that she would like to one day do a lot of research and write something about the Buddha's life from his birth to his passing away. And there are many books written about it. But what she wanted to do was to really write what is from the suttas, that is from the four main Nikayas, and maybe the fifth one as well, rather than just the commentaries and other things. Because in most of the books about the Buddha's life, it's a mixture of suttas as well as commentaries. So some of us who are traditional Buddhists know many stories that we take for granted but are not really from the suttas, so we don't know the authenticity. But anyway, she did about 8 years of research, not all the time, but I definitely know in the last 2 years she did extensive amounts of research. And many of you who are also in the audience here today and who are not here as well all supported in editing and putting all this together. So a big heartfelt thank you for anybody who's contributed, including making the website. And finally, on this Vesak, it's already up and running, this website. She is dedicating this, and it is called From Lumbini to Kushinara. So I'll put the web site details into WhatsApp group so you can check it out. It has a large number of really interesting and very inspiring information about the life and teachings of the Buddha. And my mom also had a wish to give a gift apart from that, like a physical gift or a little book or something like that. And as an expression of gratitude to her, I helped to put together a little booklet. I'm going to show it to you here, called The Buddha and His Teachings. So it's like a little magazine, very little amount. This only contains maybe less than 2% of what's in the website. But this is capturing the greatness of the Buddha and the greatness of his teachings, just some extracts and a few things. So this too is available as a ebook and will be released from our Santi website on at 9 o'clock on Sunday. And if anybody would like a actual hard copy, then please send us a message. Or if you're coming to Santi this Sunday, you may get a copy. We're still waiting for the delivery from the printers. These are a few sample copies, and eventually you'll get one. I must say, it's the difference to actually have a book in your hand and reading a book is quite different. So that's our second gift, is a little booklet with some about the greatness of the Buddha and his teachings. And the third little gift is Venerable Upeka, with her very lovely voice, read the sections of this book, actually the entire book. And then we made some couple of video clips. And if your thing is to listen instead of read, then they will also become available. And we will have the longer version, but we will also have shorter versions, in the sense into smaller segments for those of who you like to only listen to maybe 5 minutes of something inspiring. Then there will be shorter clips coming up. And that is the fourth gift, is that we are also launching a sub-channel for Santi called Voices of Nuns. So this is it starting. It only have one subscriber at the moment because we haven't launched it. So we welcome you all to join if you are happy to support and also benefit from them. And in the coming months and years, you'll get to hear the voices of many of our nuns in short Dhamma clips. So that is also coming out. And the first series that it'll have will be this one from this book, Greatness of the Buddha and His Teachings. So these are our little Dhamma gifts that you can look out for this Vesak 2025 from the community at Santi. So having said all of that, now I would like to actually use from this book, but the greatness of his teachings is what I would like to celebrate this year in 2025. So I would like to read a little bit and maybe go into detail, and this will quite nicely tie in with a very deep Dhamma talk we did last Thursday. And hopefully I'll be able to continue on from where we left off. So this is the greatness of the Buddha's teachings. The Dhamma is the profound teaching of the Blessed One, the truth discovered by him upon his awakening as a Samma Sambuddha. It is a path to freedom. The Dhamma shines with unparalleled clarity, offering a path that transcends all suffering, reveals the true nature of existence, and leads beings to the ultimate peace, Nibbana. The teachings of the Buddha are not of ordinary origin. They arise from the depths of the Buddha's perfect wisdom and compassion. So this is what is really profound about these teachings, that we so value, that we keep listening, we keep on trying to understand, apply to our life, and they eventually become our own insights and knowledges. Why they work so well, why they are so profound, yet bring so much peace and joy, is they are coming from these deep insights from a Buddha. So the arising of a Buddha is actually said like a rising of the I to the world. The world is in the darkness, darkness of delusion, not knowing, that there is this inherent unsatisfactoriness or suffering. There is a cause for it. There is a way to end it, and there is a way leading to that. And it's a Buddha, when they awaken to this truth and discover this beautiful path which we call the Noble Eightfold Path. And it is coming from an insight that comes out as through his awakening process. So his words are infused with boundless love, understanding, and insight into the hearts and minds of all sentient beings. His guidance speaks to us, not just as a doctrine, but as a living, breathing way of life, guiding us step by step towards our highest potential. Really beautiful, right? It's a living and breathing kind of practice. It's not like a dogma. It's not out there and we are here. It's not something we can't really relate to. It is very relatable, very practicable, very applicable to our lives here and now. And as we apply it, we get results also immediately. This is one of the beautiful qualities of the Dhamma, that it is immediate in bringing forth its fruits. So the Buddha, having attained enlightenment, saw the suffering of all beings and, moved by boundless compassion, shared his wisdom to guide them towards the cessation of suffering. Standing high on a rocky mountain, you can see the people all around. In the same way, the all-seer, so wise, having ascended the temple of truth, rid of sorrow, looks upon the people swamped with sorrow, oppressed by aging and death. This is from Itivuttaka 38. And with the Dhamma as his divine vehicle, the Buddha guides all beings across the turbulent waters of samsara, from the near shore of suffering to the far shore of liberation. Through his teachings, the Buddha offers us the means to transcend the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, leading us to the peaceful shores of freedom and enlightenment. Take a moment to reflect the life in samsara, like turbulent waters, right? This is our life. the chaos that goes around us, the madnesses of our minds and people around us, all of these things, this is this turbulence that we experience. But it is so healing for us to even hear that there is a way out. And it is known, it is available. And we too can use it and transcend these turbulent waters and cross to the other side. And this is possible. In many scriptures, we find the Blessed One explaining that the purpose of his appearance in the human world is to teach the Dhamma to both humans and devas. His mission is to show them the way to overcome suffering and break free from the cycle of rebirth. So, in the following sutta, the Buddha explains, and this is from Anguttara Nikaya 1099, just a little extract. Here, Upali, the Tathagata arises in the world, an Arahant, the enlightened one, the blessed one. Having realized with his own direct knowledge the nature of this world, he makes it known to others. He teaches the Dhamma that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing. Through this, he reveals the perfectly complete and pure spiritual life. So in Pali, this goes so beautifully like this. The Dhamma is Adi Kalyana, Majje Kalyana, Paryosanam kalyana, sa atta, sabhyanjana, kevala paripunna, parisuddha, brahmacharya, pakaseti. So beautiful, right? So the Dhamma is really well expounded by the Buddha. The Buddha's teachings guide us to a life of purity, offering a path that leads to true understanding and liberation. Dhamma is beneficial to one who follows it accordingly, as it brings favorable results, well-being, and happiness in this life and lives to come. It is the ultimate way to freedom. Hearing and learning the Dhamma is essential for those of us walking the noble path. It is the means by which we purify our minds, understand the nature of suffering, and cultivate the noble qualities of wisdom, ethical conduct, the mental discipline. Through the Dhamma, we learn how to live in harmony with the world and how to transcend the pain and confusion that binds us. So this is where now we are getting into connecting to the last week's talk. And in the last week's talk, we spoke about what is this problem, right? The problem that binds us to samsara was craving. If I were to recap from where we left off, so that is when we make contact, and that is when the eye see a form, when we give attention to it, when the eye consciousness comes about, and when we have an experience of sight, that is called contact. And when we contact something, then we can feel it. We have a feeling based on that contact. The feeling could be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then when we have something that we feel, we perceive it, we understand it, we think about it, and craving comes about. So this was the seamstress we were talking about in the last sutta, seamstress tying things together. Yeah, seamstress, and also craving or tanha is also called sneha, a glue, very sticky thing. We know this, isn't it? We know the stickiness of our desires, our wantings, and they can be so subtle. Maybe, as Dhamma practitioners, some of our very gross things are no longer there. At least some of them may be not there, but it goes to all kinds of levels. Yeah, so it's very tricky. They pop up, in unexpected ways, and that is the issue. Even though we know what it is now, getting rid of this craving cannot be just done by a simple act of will. I'm sure we have all tried this, right? We try this when we're desperate, but it can be useful at times for a short period, but to completely transcend the craving, it's a gradual process. It's a gradual path. It's a gradual awakening. So we have to be patient, but we have to persevere. So persist on the path and keep doing the things that is prescribed in this gradual training, beautiful gradual training. And that is how we eventually going to dry up this craving, completely make an end to it. So it can no longer tie things together or glue things together and keep us stuck in samsara. So when that glue, that craving evaporates and vanish, that is when we are released. That is when how we are liberated. And before I go more into that, I will say I would like to take an extract of this is found in this book from the Buddha. So the Buddha says here, this is the Sunakkata Sutta. I hope I can. Yeah, it is in the Sunakkata Sutta, which is in the Majjhima Nikaya, that is Middle Length Discourses, Sutta 105. The Blessed One compares himself to a skillful surgeon. Just as a surgeon uses a knife to remove poison from a wound caused by an arrow, The Buddha, as a spiritual surgeon, removes the poison of craving from the minds of others. In this simile, the arrow represents craving. The poison symbolizes ignorance, that is, not knowing the Four Noble Truths. And that is that suffering, there's a cause for suffering. The suffering can be ended, and there is a path that leads to the ending of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the knife represents the noble wisdom, and the surgeon is the Buddha, the fully enlightened one. With great compassion, the Buddha, having seen the suffering of beings, steps forward to relieve them from the pain and misery of samsara. So beautiful, right? To have a teacher who is so compassionate to us, who looks after us, who cares for us and sees that we are stuck with a big problem. Some of us also don't even know how big the problem is, quite ignorant, still in the dark. So the Buddha says, suppose Sunakata, a man is wounded by an arrow, smeared with poison. The surgeon would cut around the wound with a knife, then use a probe to locate the arrow. After removing the arrow, the surgeon would expel the poisonous substance. He would then say, good man, the arrow has been removed, and the poison has been expelled, leaving no trace to harm you. Eat only suitable food. Wash the wound regularly and anoint its opening, to prevent pus and blood from covering it. Take care of the wound and ensure it heals properly. It is possible, Sunakata, that a bhikkhu here might reflect. Craving has been compared to an arrow by the recluse. The poisonous substance of ignorance is spread by desire, lust, and ill will. That arrow of craving has been removed from me, and the poisonous substance of ignorance has been expelled. I am on Nibbana. I am fully intent on Nibbana. A person truly intent on Nibbana would not pursue things unsuitable for one on the path to Nibbana. Because they do not pursue unsuitable things, lust would not invade their mind. And because their mind is free from lust, they would not encounter death or suffering. As the Buddha reveals the path to freedom from these very burdens, hearts are awakened, and the listeners eagerly open their minds, seeking understanding in the presence of the Tathagata's words. They delight in the wisdom that leads to liberation, finding joy in the removal of their afflictions and the blossoming of true insight. So, quite beautiful just to even read out and reflect these things that we already know, already spoken about many times. But the beautiful thing and the helpful thing is to bring this, make it current in our mind. Bring it up in our mind, to elate, to bring up that joy in our mind, the inspiration, because it is the inspiration which is the driving force. Yeah, so without that inspiration, without that joy, without that confidence in the teaching, it is not possible for us to exert ourselves on the path, right? So this is really helpful to understand. And then I would like to just mention, go a little bit deeper into how we actually deal with this craving, right? So one of the things, I mean, there are many, many steps, as I mentioned, it's a gradual path, a gradual training, which is what we are gradually learning from Dhamma talks, from reading, going on retreats and studying and all of those things. But how this happens is through actually perceptions. Yeah, perceptions. because in a beautiful sutta that comes up in Anguttara Nikaya, numerical discourses, in the book of force. Now I'm saying this by memory, so I can't remember the reference. It's called Nibbana Sutta. In this sutta, Venerable Ananda, who was the attendant of the Buddha, who was already a stream winner, but he took a long time. He actually became fully enlightened after the Buddha has passed away. But he was an Aryan, so he reached the first stage of enlightenment. And then he was very good friends with Venerable Sariputta, who was the Dhamma um, general of the Dhamma, like the right hand disciple of the Buddha. So they were really good friends. And sometimes Venerable Ananda would go up to Venerable Sariputta and ask questions. Yeah, even though he can also ask from the Buddha, it's also nice sometimes you discuss Dhamma with your friends. So he asked Venerable Sariputta, Bhante, why are some beings here, not getting enlightened? It feels like he's asking about himself. He's trying. He's already a stream winner, but taking a long time. Some of the people who he ordains and teaches getting fully enlightened, but he's still not fully enlightened. It's very sweet. He's really sweet character. If you want to read up Venerable Ananda's character, you can find it in the Theravada and Great Disciples of the Buddha, written by Bhikkhu Bodhi. Very sweet. Also, Venerable Sariputta is a very humble, very sweet monk as well. So Venerable Sariputta says it is because of not understanding and not developing 4 types of perceptions. So before I go into what these 4 are, we are also stuck in samsara because of distorted perceptions. Yeah, the Buddha says in the suttas that we have distortions with our perceptions. We have distortions with our views, and we have distortions with our mind or our thoughts. So we have distorted perceptions, thoughts, and views. So views, perceptions, and thoughts would be probably the right order, like we discussed last time. When we have a sense experience, based on that contact, based on that feeling, and based on the views that we have taken on, the reviews that we have read, all of those things, our perceptions sort of, guides us in a way, and that's how we perceive the world, perceive the experience. But they are distorted because we perceive what is suffering as happiness, what is not attractive as attractive, what cannot be taken as a self, me or mine, as a self, and what is inherently impermanent, transient, as permanent. So this is this perception, also the part of the right view, anicca, dukkha, anatta, and also asubha. So these 4 things are due to our perverted perceptions or distorted perceptions. This is why for example, if you when you think about your most favorite movie star, actor or actress, when you see them as a whole with your views about them, with your inclinations for what you think about as attractive, they look very attractive. Desire may come up in your mind. But if you think about it, maybe you think they have beautiful hair, you would like to stroke it. But if they take a lock of their hair and put it in your dinner plate, would you want to have it? And you might think they have beautiful nails. If they give some of their nail cuttings, would you want to have them? And they might have beautiful teeth when they smile. If they give one of their teeth, would you want to hold it? So this is the thing, right? When you take the body into pieces, if you don't see it as a whole, but instead the body parts for what they are, there's nothing beautiful, attractive about it. And I think beautiful eyes. But if you just see the eye itself, if taken out from the body, you wouldn't want to know anything about it. You wouldn't want to touch it. Yeah, a fleshy eye of somebody else's or even your own, you wouldn't want to touch it. Body parts are nothing attractive, not disgusting either. It's just nothing. But also all the external things are all dead, right? The outer layer of your skin is dead. All the body hairs and also your hair is dead. Your teeth are dead. Your nails are dead. So when you go and embrace somebody, you're actually embracing dead things. You don't think about it, right? But this is our perversion of the perception. This is the distortion that the Buddha is talking about. This is where we see beauty in something that is inherently, unattractive or repulsive even. And we take this body to be me and mine, and it is in my control. It belongs to me, and I can do whatever I like. And all these things also belong to me. They are under my control. Not only these things, all these my people are also belong to me. I can control them. And all our life we have tried to control, right? And we know how impossible that is. A few weeks ago, I mentioned my, vomiting issue during a Dhamma talk. I had to get up and run to the toilet. That's how unreliable, how much this body is not within my control. Yeah. So this is the distortion, but yet we have this distortion of perception, thinking it is mine. And we also have a feeling, even if you're 70 or 80 years of age, you just have the feeling of living a very long time. Permanence, that we last forever. Our people last forever. Our house is there forever. All these things, we have this feeling of impermanence. But when you look at it, you know that it is impermanent. So these are these distortions. So it is because of these distortions we run after things that we like and desire, and then run away from things that we do not like. Yeah, all these are based on these views, perceptions, and distortions, yeah, of these perceptions, views, and thoughts. This is how we are trapped. So getting enlightened is nothing but awakening into the truth. The distortions are finally gone, and things you see for what they are. What is a body that we find so attractive? Your body or other people's bodies? Or what are these foods or music? Anything, just elements, just things made up of just elements. But it's easy just to say it, but it doesn't work, right? We still like our stuff. We still desire things. So that is how sticky these cravings are. This is how powerful these distortions are. So this is why the whole path of practice is about, transforming these distortions. It is also done through another group of perceptions. And these are the kind of perceptions that the suttas describe again and again throughout the discourses, encouraging us to develop. I think 2 weeks ago we mentioned about one of them, which was impermanence, anicca. Yeah, we did the power of meditation, anicca meditation, power of meditation on impermanence, and which the Buddha recommended as one of the highest forms of practice. So this is about building perception of impermanence, because our perception is normally based on permanence. But something that is beautiful, this also comes up in the suttas. The Buddha says, when you develop the perception of impermanence, you get another bonus gift. And that is, you also develop the perception of anatta. Yeah, non-self comes together, because what is inherently not within my control, what is changing is not within my control. Therefore, it is anatta. It comes to be. And with it comes also the idea of suffering. So that is why it's really powerful practice. But it is all about developing perceptions about impermanence, developing perceptions about non-self aspect, developing perceptions of the suffering inherent in the world and the things that we desire, and developing perceptions of, what is unattractive. All of these things, asubhachanya, adinavasanya, all of these things come up. So the Venerable Sariputta explains there are 4 types of perceptions to be developed. So Hana Bhaga Sanya, Visesa Bhaga Sanya, Titi Bhaga Sanya, and Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya in Pali. So Hana Bhaga Sanya means the perceptions that brings deterioration. Visesa Bhaga Sanya are the perceptions that takes you to distinction. Titibhaga Sanya are perceptions that gains stability. And Nibbedikas Bhaga Sanya are the perceptions that brings the liberating insights. Yeah, you turn away, and this is where the enlightenment or stages of enlightenment can happen. So these perceptions are to be developed, because for things that we find attractive, yeah, so when we build up these perceptions of deterioration, seeing the impermanence nature of these things. So impermanence perceptions would fall under that category too, that we sort of, turn away from these things. So, and also deterioration is like understanding the danger of things, yeah, the things that we are attracted to, things that bind us, all those dangers, identifying, there are also perceptions, but seeing that. So if you don't perceive it like that, perceive it as a problem, perceive it as a danger, then it can be, that then we can't transcend it. So deterioration is seeing the things that takes us down. Visesa Bhaga Sanya are the perceptions that takes us to distinction. So that means when we use those, we can elevate our mind. So like, for example, the Buddha says, if you are in the first jhana, going to the second jhana is that giving up of the seeing the problem of the thought, vitaka and vichara. So when you see, there are very subtle things. When you see that and when you let go, then you enter the second jhana. So that is Visesa Bhaga Sanya. So the perceptions that are necessary for that process is on that. But also any other process that takes you onwards in the path, uplifts you rather than takes you down, will be under that big category of Visesa Bhaga Sanya that takes you to distinction. And Titibhaga Sanya is stability, that is also to understand the mind and its various states and familiarizing ourselves. But the perception that I want to bring more attention is this Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya, the kind of perceptions that allows you to turn away from this sticky glue. So this is what helps us to, finally get rid of craving. This is the thing that evaporates or dries up the craving, is this Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya. So from time to time, it is necessary that we try to develop these as meditations. So there is this it's a mouthful in Pali called Sabba Loke Anabhirata Sanya. So the perceptions that arouse non-delight in the entire world. That's one of these Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya, quite powerful when you see the stickiness of the world, the problem of the world, the sufferings, the impermanence, all of these things in the world. When you really see with a mind that is free of hindrances, so a mind that is really bright, sharp, and with heightened mindfulness, actually the mind, the craving sort of drops and the mind turns away. And this is sometimes possible if you do it in the right way. You can get at least a small experience of it, and you can build it up, because you have to start familiarizing yourself, understand how these things are developed, and you try it. And to me, this happened quite accidentally, and I find it was very fortunate. So this is an experience that I had during COVID, like it's 2020, when COVID first came, very first time. I don't know, now it's like a past memory, right? But if you can recall, when it first came, when people were dropping dead, like millions of them, yeah? This was the time we heard that in New York, there were like containers full of dead bodies. And Australia was actually safe at that time. We were in a bubble watching this news, right? Around the world, in Europe, and all this pain really painful. And also the news that this kind of virus, it's very hard to find a vaccine. And, it felt as if the world was going to come to an end. That kind of time, right? That kind of time. This was at the peaking time. And my birthday was coming, and I was used to celebrating my birthdays. This was my conditioning from my mom or my family, like everybody else. I was used to celebrating birthdays, and I celebrate everybody else's birthday, even in the monastery, because it's a nice time to just show kindness, affection. It's really sweet thing to do. So of course, I have no escape as well when it comes to my birthday. Everybody else also does things. So, but usually I like, I don't mind. It's just a conditioned thing. But when you think about it, birth, why are we celebrating? But anyway, at that time, I haven't still understood that. So I'm used to celebrating birthdays. But on that particular birthday, this was the day before the birthday, I was not in the mood to celebrate. How can we celebrate anything when so many people are suffering and dying in the world, right? So it's kind of not possible. But of course, everybody is in their automatic way of doing things. And I also shared the birthday with the abbot of our monastery. We had the same birthday. Of course, it's abbot's birthday as well. So we have a double birthday. So of course, the anagarikas in the kitchen, they were preparing, and I could hear the sound as I'm passing by the kitchen area. So they are getting ready, but I was in no mood for this. But what can I do? I can't stop. It's not only my birthday. So anyway, I thought, it's nice to maybe at least go and do some meditation. Send some loving kindness. This is a time the world is suffering. Let me do some karuna meditation, compassion meditation. After all, my name's supposed to be Karunika. So I thought, well, that's what I should do this birthday, like the day before. But, we all hear about how to do metta meditation. It's not that common to hear karuna meditation, right? We don't hear methods or anything like that. So I actually didn't really know very much about it or thought about it. So nevertheless, I sat in the hall and I thought, how can I bring up some kindness, compassion for the suffering in the world? And then suddenly this kind of thing came to me. It's kind of unusual for me to do this. I never really do this kind of visualizations. It's not my thing. But for some reason it came. And I sort of felt like I was this bird with this X-ray vision. And I was flying above the suburbs where this COVID was spreading like madness. And as I was flying above, I could see through the roofs and see through into the houses and to what's going on in these houses. Because before I did that, actually, I just did a little bit of research, to see what's happening, just looked at the news and to see what's going on. And I realized, my goodness, what's happening. But what really struck me was not the actual pain of the sickness and the death. But when I read in Australia, they have put aside at that time $72 million for just domestic violence incidents that are coming and to take care of the people. And then they have put aside another $160 million for taking care of mental health issues that are coming out as a result of COVID. So this must be the time that that money is spent, and we know that it's gone through that. But at the time, it never occurred to me. And when I read that, I realized, my goodness, this is really serious. And I could see, even mothers sometimes not taking care of their children, being afraid that they would get COVID, or some children not taking care of their parents who are sick. And people all thinking like each person is like their killer at the time, if you had COVID. This was that time in the world, the people were treating each other so harshly, even their loved ones so badly. And that's why there was, violence and frustration, not being able to handle all these lockdowns. So I was kind of seeing the madness in households, in life in general, and death and all that. Just not seeing in the sense that I was imagining, I was visualizing. It's not so hard, just about it. So I was just had this kind of thinking for a little while. And it occurred to me, people who were rich were dying, who were poor, educated, uneducated, young, old, healthy, unhealthy, even Olympic, athletes, even if you were the, expert in COVID, everybody, nobody, you don't know who is going to be the next one. So when this was kind of happening, when we saw there was no control over this is when I should have started my compassion meditation, because enormous, feelings of compassion, seeing the suffering of the people, came. But at the same time, a question arose in my mind. Why? Why is this happening? At that time, my mind also came up with the answer, Jatipi, birth. It is because we are born that we have to face all of these things. Up until then, it hasn't occurred to me. I mean, of course, you know about it, but not in that same way. This was a really powerful, that jatipi dukkha, this birth or rebirth, is indeed a really painful thing. Because at that time, my mind was really one-pointed, focused on the suffering of the people. So a perception on suffering has been built up. And as a result of that, when I saw that incredible suffering, my mind there was a moment it just turned. Yeah, like the craving sort of subsided for a temporarily. This is why I can talk about it. It is not a really deep experience, but enough deep to get insight and share with people. So the craving temporarily subsided. And when that happens, the mind actually gets released. Yeah, the mind turns away. It's an incredible, beautiful feeling. And this is how this Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya, these perceptions, when they come to a good size, that it has that power to sort of work on your craving. It has an effect on it. I mean, it has to be really big, much more powerful for the craving to be completely gone forever. That is arahantship. But up until that, little by little you can experience how this works, because otherwise if you try to use your willpower to stop craving, it comes back. It's like this really sticky thing. You can't, get rid of it. Somehow it turns around and comes back again. But when you see, when you develop these perceptions that are called Sabba Loke Anabhirata Sanya, it's one of them, which is what I was developing, seeing the suffering inherent in the sensual world. That's where my mind turned away from. So it still had other places that it was still sticky, but at least that's a big part still, right? The sensual world is a big part of our life. And this is the power. So this, I just brought up this experience and explanation just to show how we deal with craving, how we take care of it, how we get rid of it little by little, slowly. So just to show the power of building up perceptions. Yeah. So what happened is that once the mind just turned, it took up just jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, maranampi dukkha. It just took only 3. And I'm very close to Pali. And for me, when I say something in Pali, it really goes to like my blood. It feels so like powerful. So as I was sort of reciting jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, maranampi dukkha, it was almost like automatic. The mind sort of gets then one pointed, and it can enter into really, quite still meditative states as a result. So this is a very, very beautiful way of entering meditation. So this is what I was also mentioning, I think 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we talk about developing perceptions of impermanence. Yeah, so these are all perceptions: anicca sanya, anatta sanya, asubha sanya, sabbaloke anabhirata sanya. All of these things are perceptions, various kinds of perceptions that has incredible power to evaporate or dry out the craving or lessen the gluiness. Little by little, it becomes less sticky. But we have to keep doing, because it is so sticky for many lifetimes. But we can't let up. Yeah, we keep persisting, persevering, and developing. And actually, this actually is a very skillful way to enter meditation, because it is this very craving that disturbs our process of meditation, right? We sit down to meditate and the mind wants to run after things. The craving takes us away from the stillness of the mind. Yeah, so the craving is such a problem. So we just leave it to one side and we focus on building up perceptions. Yeah, perception on one or the other aspect. And these are given in the suttas, many, many, many different ways of developing different types of perceptions according to your mood. And in that occasion, I had many conducive conditions. There's a high impact situation happening in the world. So that was why it had so much power at that time. But even at an ordinary time, you can still make things very real, like Marana Sanya, right? Marana Anusati. So perception of our death, like, how death can come anytime. Life is so uncertain. I could die before this Dhamma talk ends. You might witness me falling down off the seat. It can happen one day, right? Or I might see one of you suddenly falling away. This is true, but we don't think about it, but it is so real. So when we make it real, when it starts to grab hold of our mind in that way, the perception starts to build up. When that perception starts to build up, our concerns, our wants, our this inherent attraction to things sort of loosens its grasp. And then you start to really see things, because then the mind starts to get clarity, because some of those distortions are now, the hindrances are settling down. Yeah, so this is when the distortions then slowly, slowly go away and you see things clearly. This is vipassana, yeah, seeing things clearly. Vipassana proper is like this. So when the mind is very still, free from the hindrances, then you see powerfully what's really going on. So now I mentioned this. Did anybody else experience any nibbida? Did you experience your mind turning away, your craving dying down? But you understood, right? You understood, though, that there's a problem. So the why it didn't happen to any one of us right now, not even to me right now, was because, the mind is not one-pointed. Yeah, the mind is not still. The hindrances are still there. We are hearing these things together with the hindrances. So it doesn't still stick. It just goes above. It just goes above. It does its job. So this is why in meditation, you sit down and you get one pointed and in directed way of looking at something. And then slowly the big thing, you start big, like I thought I was like a bird going through seeing this, but of course it subsides and comes to a small thing. And finally, just rest with jati pi dukkha, jara pi dukkha, maranam pi dukkha. And even that, you don't have to do so much. It was automatic already as the mind becoming still. So so it works like this. And then when you see, that's why it's through seeing. Yeah, yata bhuta jnana dassana. Yeah, it's through seeing that the wisdom, the insight arise. And that is the cooling agent that puts out the fire of craving, fire of delusion, fire of hatred, raga, dosa, moha. Yeah, these are the three unwholesome roots that give rise to all these problems. So it's very powerful. So this is this Vesak, just an encouragement for you all to develop these perceptions as meditations, take up, because this is everywhere. It's not only about meditating with the breath, which is also very important, but also these other building up perceptions. Without those also, we can't get the insights. That's why the Buddha mentioned both. Yeah. So this is the power. So building up perceptions falls under one of the powers, which is called power of reflection. And the other one is power of development, bhavana bala and patisankhana bala. Patisankhana bala is that power of reflection. So we do many, many reflections. So throughout the suttas, the Buddha says, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis or monastics or practitioners, yeah, reflect in this way. Itipati sanchikkati. If you want to do a word search, reflect, or in Pali, itipati sanchikkati. Reflect in this way. And then you build up these perceptions. And that is how you gain that power. So it's a combination of both. These are the two main powers that takes us all the way into freedom, into liberation from this sticky glue, yeah, to peace, to all of those things that we mentioned earlier about the power, the greatness of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah, so I shall stop here and open up for any questions, comments, and things like that. Okay, Simran says, is that not what the Supreme Buddha did under the Bodhi tree through, what do you mean, is that means, where did you say that? I wasn't watching.
That was at the point when you mentioned we cannot just become enlightened through an act of will.
Yes, exactly. You can't. Yes, it's a whole gradual path. Yes. So the thing is, the Buddha was doing that path and he didn't realize at the time, of course, he did what was intuitive, what was, the practice and kept going. And he entered also the deep meditations because also from past life practice also he had this meditation ability, so he went into deep meditation and also he got the knowledges. He's had past life, psychic ability to see the past life. All of those things happen, and as a result, big perceptions and developed and insights came. And so his main thing is he understood suffering, and then he experienced being released, completely being liberated from the suffering. That is first noble truth and the third noble truth. So these was his actual experiences. And then he reflect back. Then he asked the question. So after he's released, then he looked back, Pachavekkana, and he saw what was the problem. That is when the second noble truth was understood. Oh, craving is the problem. So he declared craving. And then he reflected back. How did I arrive here? What is the way? And then he realized, oh, this is the way. He realized how he was, how he practiced. And the Noble Eightfold Path was then, he discovered that. I mean, he first did the dependent origination. That was his main thing. And then he also realized, the factors. And that is where he says so beautifully that he discovered this ancient path that was used by all the previous Buddhas and described, which has gotten sort of covered up, but he rediscovers this. Kind of interesting, yeah.